Hello, Rama Pupodu. Hope all are in good health, feeling happy, relaxed, and having a peaceful life. Now, let's continue with the story. God assumes all forms. Another extraordinary experience worth narrating in some detail befell Ramdas. About 10 o'clock in the night on a rainy day, a strange looking individual entered his room. Besides clothed in rags, his hair was disheveled. He had with him a small bundle suspended on a rough palm stick. He looked as if he were demented. He came in and took his seat near Ramdas. "May I rest here tonight?" he asked in a queer sing-song manner. Ramdas said that he was quite welcome. He sat on the mat and opened his bundle, which contained a bizarre assortment of small bits of cloth in varied colors. Taking out the rags, he scattered them on the ground. Then, glancing at Ramdas, he laughed a merry laugh. Ramdas thought to himself, "O Lord, thou comest in wonderful disguises." After a while, the strange visitor, gathering up the scraps, remade the bundle. Next, approaching Ramdas, he chanted the burden of a popular Canaries song, the purport of which was, "Thou art the ever pure, all merciful, and mysterious Govinda." He sang forth this verse in his own peculiarly passionate and impressive style. He spoke in the Canaries tongue. Suddenly stopping his music, he directly looked on Ramdas' face and said, "You see, my clothes are all old and worn out. Would you not part with the one you are using for me?" pointing to the cloth worn by Ramdas. Ramdas at once, divesting himself of the cloth, handed it over to him. The visitor carefully folded it and laid it beside him. In an imperious voice, he spoke next. "Now let us sleep. Reduce the light. Mind you, don't put it out." Obediently, Ramdas carried out his bidding. He lay himself down, pretending to sleep, and Ramdas followed suit. 5 minutes had not elapsed when he sprang into sitting posture, calling on Ramdas to do the same. Ramdas yielded. The light was made brighter. "I have yet to demand something more," he said. "Everything in this room," Ramdas replied, "is Ram's property, and since you are here, you have a right to it. You may freely ask and take." Meantime, Ramdas had covered himself with the other spare cloth. "I need also the cloth you have just put on." And he stretched forth his hand. Without a word, Ramdas surrendered up the second cloth. Some minutes passed, and he said, "I have need for a water pot. If you have no objection, you may give the one over there," eyeing the vessel in the corner of the room. Emptying the pot of its water, Ramdas passed it on to him. As desired by him, Ramdas made up the things into a bundle. Then he called for the mat, the deerskin, the lantern, the umbrella, the spare langot, one after the other at almost regular intervals. Ramdas felt that God was out to test him if he had any sense of possession still left. His dedicated life did not admit to any of the attachment to things of the world. Whenever he gave away the things to this strange friend, he did so in a spirit of delightful spontaneity. He, with a rising emotion, addressed the visitor. "O Lord, thy tests are wonderful. Everything is thine, and thine alone." At this, the visitor broke out into his usual offhand laughter. He demanded also a few religious books which were in the room. All articles were tied up in a cloth and formed a pretty big bundle. Later he said with a note of warning in his voice, "It is possible when I am gone with them, you might regret your folly. What say you?" "No, not at all," quickly responded Ramdas. "Since you are taking away your own things, Ramdas had no cause for regret. Now then," he broke out, "give me that board on the wall." It also went to swell the bundle. The room was now almost empty. Being monsoon time, it began to pour heavily. The night had advanced and it was about 3 a.m. Ramdas had nothing on except a cowpin. One thing more, he still cried. I may also require the pair of spectacles you have on. The pair of spectacles was duly handed over to him, on examining which he remarked that it would fit him. Yet one more thing, he said. You may demand anything, replied Ramdas. Ramdas has dedicated his entire life to thee. Pass me the cowpin you are wearing, he asked calmly. It was beyond any doubt now that God himself was here for a crucial test. Ramdas, with perfect nonchalance, born of complete self-surrender, loosened the cowpin from his otherwise naked body to offer it to him. But before Ramdas had moved it outright, the strange friend stopped him with his hand, saying, No, no, you may retain it. I need it not. He then eagerly asked, Can you follow me? Ramdas lost no time in replying, By all means. Not now, some other time, he said, and prepared to start. It was now raining in torrents. In one hand he held the lantern, and in the other the umbrella and the palm pole flung across his shoulder, with the bundle suspended on it at his back. Standing on the landing steps, he flashed a parting shot. What do you think of me? I am not mad. I am not, he said with great emphasis. You are he. You are he, gasped out Ramdas, his throat fully choked with emotion. The friend descended the steps and walked away. Ramdas returned to the room, and the moment he sat down on the floor, he was lost in a deep trance. It was broad daylight. When he recovered from the trance, he beheld quite a crowd swarming at his door, of whom Anand Rao was one. The news had been conveyed to them by the servant who was bringing him his morning milk and fruit. They assumed that a thief must have decamped with all the missing articles from the room. They inquired of him as to how it all happened. Ramdas only replied, The Lord Ram provides through one form and takes away through another. This brief and enigmatic explanation did not, of course, satisfy them, so he had to give out a detailed account of the incident of the previous night. All listened to the story with breathless interest. One of them suggested that the rogue should be hunted down and captured. For what fault of his? Asked Ramdas. He has taken only his own things. There is no law on earth, added he, that can punish him for it. He is not a rogue. He is the Lord himself. An irrepressible smile lit up the faces of all who heard him. They seemed to have understood him and quietly dispersed. Before noon the same day, Anand Rao, all kindness and love as he was, furnished the room afresh, so that it looked again as if nothing had been removed from it. A few days later, the new water pot had to be substituted by another, the second one having gone into the possession of an itinerant sannyasini who was badly in need of one. Anand Rao sought to replace the pair of spectacles, but Ramdas declined, saying, The Lord has deprived Ramdas of the spectacles because he may not need them in future. His will be done. Ever since then, Ramdas has been doing without spectacles, as his sight has completely restored. One evening, while Ramdas was reading an treatise on Rajayoga by Swami Vivekananda, a desire arose in his heart to practice pranayama. No sooner did this thought flit across his mind than a young Rajayogi stepped into the room and sat beside him. Ramdas at once saw that the Lord had sent the yogi to instruct him in this great science. That very night, the Raja Yogi initiated Ramdas into the mysteries of rajavidya, or royal science as he called it. Thenceforth, Ramdas was mostly occupied in the practice of asana and pranayama. As the practice went on, he experienced a dead stillness and peace overtaking him. Accordingly, the incentive to reading and talk vanished. He became composed and silent. This change was marked and remarked upon by the daily visitors. Hunger, hitherto dormant, was aroused, and he had to take larger quantities of food than usual. The rule of sattvic diet being broken under the strain of incessant practice of pranayama, he felt great physical weakness. A craving for solitude now seized him, so that he might undergo the new experiences in an undisturbed place. He proposed the change to Anand Rao, who immediately arranged to shift him to a place about 2 miles from Kasaragod. That's all, folks. Let's see in the next chapter. Thank you. Bye bye. Rama Rama Puppodu.